So, here we are, the latest episode of Only Connect, the Bonded podcast, and it's with great pleasure that I'm joined today by Michael Owen, who is a good friend of mine, both professionally and personally, and I'm not sure how many people know this, has been mentioned in the past, but was really integral to the development of Bonded, essentially, and the early, particularly in those early months where we, the founding directors, chose to spend, quite rightly so, invest time in really digging into why we wanted to launch the business and what our beliefs were and what the purpose of the business was going to be. But we spent quite a lot of time during that period, didn't we? In your capacity as professionally as a consultant, really, for businesses, with a strong leaning into marketing and brand, which is what we were working on together for Bonded. Amongst other things as well, one of my learnings over the years, which certainly was apparent during this process, if we call it that, when we formalised the Bonded brand together, was it's always very difficult when it's your own business and you're in it, or you're about to be in it, to step outside. And although, I see myself as a marketer as well, like be able to look in and go, what's our brand position, what's our brand purpose, what's our beliefs. So completely invaluable, really, what we did together at that point, and be forever grateful, really. But yeah.
I think this is the longest I've kept my gob shut. So that was a challenge for me.
Well done.
At the time, I don't think I ever said it out loud, but I think what you'd done in your previous role was really impressive in the Northeast, and you were quite brave to leave one successful place, I think, for another. So I really wanted you to succeed on a personal level. So I was more than happy to try and help, because that's all I was doing, trying to help. But the big question that I had in my own head when you were doing what you were doing, and as I say, I don't know if I ever said it out loud, was there's a difference, I think, between leading a category and driving a category. I think leading a category can be, I don't think that's what gets you out. The businesses I try and help, I try and say, look, let's try and drive the category. Let's try and change something about the category that we fundamentally think isn't good enough with agencies. Not lead by more awards or more people or more turnover, because I don't think that lights you up. I'm hitting my microphone there. Kind of in your heart.
Uh-huh.
So I was interested in conversations about what we thought the category wasn't doing well enough.
Yes.
Not what you could optimize, but we ended up in places like, and it's nothing to do with having a go at any particular agency. And by the way, what I'm about to say is my view, not yours. Or you can pick up on it and agree if you want, because I don't want to put any distance between you and any other agencies. But I'm more than happy to say that most agencies, I think, are very boring because they don't have a unique position or a point of view. Very important, I think, to have a point of view. And a lot of agencies, I just don't think they have a point of view. And I don't think that's right. And I do think that you've inspired agencies that I've seen that have grown up in the last 4-ish years, because you've been going 4 years and a bit, to not just flop into the marketplace and go, I can do websites, or I can do any area of communications, really, or just ride on the back of a new technology, AI or whatever. I find businesses like that quite dull. The short thing I'm trying to say really is I think you came in and Bonded had a point of view, and the point of view was, if, it seems to me that we developed together, but obviously led by you, was if you are not connecting to your client and understanding the best way for your client to connect to their customers, then it's a waste of time. So the focus was always the human relationship, and then the tools you used came second. And I think that was, well, it still is quite rare, I think. So the only connect as a fundamental. I'll mention this because we had a conversation about, kind of not off the record, but in the early days, about what happens, Steve, if someone comes in with a pocket full of money and they go, I've got to get this, it's really urgent, I've got to get cracking now. Let's got to get this spent. I'm not going to talk to you about strategy or anything, Steve, we're going to go straight to a tactical level, let's just get this done. Because I put it to you that you can't take their money. You know what I mean? With a smile on my face, you can't take their money because that makes you you're bullshitting about your brand position. I'll just take. And it seems to me that we don't have to say on camera whether you do or you don't do that kind of shenanigans, but I see no evidence of that, and I'm quite close to bonded. It seems to me, well, hang on, slow down a bit. So I like that you're authentic in your execution now, because I've stayed quite close to the business, and if you don't understand truly what's going on, I like the way that you don't get seduced by, making a few quid. I quite like that. Unless you do that kind of shenanigans, Steve. Do you do that kind of shenanigans?
Certainly not. I mean, I think to that point, but taking it from how I interpret it, I listening to what you're saying, from a market positioning perspective, it's really interesting to hear you say, you didn't feel, not to misquote, but you didn't feel that out of all the agencies out there, of which there's tens of thousands of now just in the UK and a very saturated market, that this was a really underserved area, that the lack of connection, if you like. But honestly, for me, it goes so much deeper, and I know you know this, but like the belief around connection and how important that is to the heartbeat of bonded, without meaning to sound cheesy, it's like it really does set the tone for how we behave, even on multiple levels, like who we employ. So, during the recruitment process, we identify whether the individual is going to connect in the way that we believe, both internally and with the client. Do we connect essentially with a new client? Are they going to be able to see us as a true partner, or a transactional supplier, the latter of which isn't really going to work for us in terms of how we want to build long-term relationships. And even when I get approached by salespeople, I mean, these are just random thoughts popping into my head, if they don't take the time to actually have a proper conversation, then I just dismiss it, because they don't align with my beliefs of how business should be done. And it's quite a good qualifier, that. I'm sure that other people do a similar thing, but possibly not for the same reason. But when I get spammed and spammed and spammed, as many people do now, there's no decision-making process, because even on that level of, if you're not going to actually take the time to try to approach me in a way where you want to build a meaningful connection, then you don't align with how we're not going to be able to do business together.
Do you think that agencies as a whole should connect better with their clients?
Oh, 100%.
The reason I ask is because I was talking about you and Tony Chocolonely in the same breath just last week to somebody I'm working with now on the subject of driving. I'm going to say it again, driving the category rather than leading the category. Because if you believe that all business communications, advertising, etc., the things we consume as consumers would be better, if you believe that all of that would be better if agencies connected better with their clients and agency clients connected better with their customers, if that's a belief, then you would at a heartfelt level, you'd want all agencies to behave like that. And it seems to me that you do. On Tony Chocolonely's website, they believe in a more kind... Should I pause because of the noise?
No, it's urban.
So if you can still hear me, and then let's see what it is. I'm going to speak. Okay, so on the Tony Chocolonely website, if you want to, I think you know this, if you want to see how their global supply chain works, you can have it. And they say at Cadbury's, if you want to know exactly how we've built how our business works, just tell us and we'll give it you. And lots of people have, and Cadbury's have. But the point is, I think that's the difference between wanting authentic change or wanting a point of difference that you're possessive about. So I'm meandering a bit now, but the point is the Tony Chocolonelyness. We want cacao production to be done like this globally. And I'm repeating myself, we've worked out how to do it, and we do it. If you want to do it too, ask us and we'll give you the solution.
Yeah.
It's nice that when I see you chatting away on social media, you kind of let people into how you work, which is a very generous way to be. And also, if you didn't do that, then you're saying it with a smile on my face, of course, your claim that you believe that that's how agencies should be would not be authentic, because you'd go, I'm not telling you how we do it, you know. You've also been pretty good at not falling out with people, it seems to me, saying with a smile on my face, because over the years, I ran agencies for 15 to 20 years, the industry had its ups and downs, and people either got along in times of scarcity. 2008, for example, people got very insular and scared and didn't get along so much. So I've seen the whole sector change over 30 years, I suppose, and it's nice that you seem to have got along with lots of people in a really good way. I think that's credit to you being keen to, and I'll repeat myself, drive change in the category rather than just to be a single beacon of change.
Yeah.
So I quite like that.
Well, thanks for your kind words. Appreciate it. I think just thinking about going back a few years, I guess, and thinking about when we first properly met, because we had met beforehand. You know, for the listeners, really, your background is more than this, but you know, when I first got to know you was sort of the mid-2000s, I think, and you ran an agency. You were involved in agency world back then, an agency called One Best Way, that was like brand communications, website development, and so forth. And that was, you know, coincidentally, 2004, I think, was when I started in agency world myself. So it's not too dissimilar times. And I was certainly aware of One Best Way. You know, it was one of the leading communications agencies in the region at the time. But where we properly got to know one another, I'd say, is through my wife Hannah, back 10 years ago actually, in 2015, where I was in a period of disconnection, which is starting to be a bit of a running theme, I guess, on this podcast series. And it all makes sense really when I spoken to other guests, and I think reflect on myself as well, that and why I value the importance of connection. Part of the influence over that is that I've been through periods of experiencing disconnection. And that was certainly a period within my career where you really supported me, which I was, again, very grateful for. And I learned a lot about the importance of communication, and just in the simplest form, really, which I found hugely valuable, you know, just sitting, talking to people over coffee or in another environment. People that were very generous in terms of giving me their time. So it was a bit of a one-way conversation, me sort of vocalising where I was and where I felt disconnected, and you providing your valuable advice at that point to help me navigate. And I feel since then, in different guises, we've had, you know, it's not just all been one way, you know, hopefully I've listened to you and we've shared advice. But that was my first, although we knew one another, as I'm sure we both know people in the business community, that was the first point where I see anyway, that doesn't sound cheesy or anything, that we became friends, certainly in a professional capacity and on a personal level as well. But it was that sort of period of disconnection. I think from what you've shared, you were going through a different, but timing-wise, a period of disconnection as well with where we were.
So we were sat outside Starbucks, weren't we?
Yes.
The one outside Malmaison, if it's still there, in Newcastle. You caught me at a time where I just got past the embarrassment of feeling lost. I was thinking to myself as you were talking 1 minute ago about when in my curve of whoever I am and wherever I'm going, where I was. When I shut the agencies down, I said recently to someone, it's because people have gone, oh, you've started 9 or 10 businesses now, Mike, that's kind of brave. I said, it takes a lot more bravery to stop something than to start something for someone like me, and I think for most people. So I was kind of embarrassed and sad and a bit lost for a little while, maybe 6 months after deciding to dismantle One Best Way and Violet Bic, and Angelfish is the brand we've kept going, and another little company called Done and Dusted. But there were a raft of 4 brands that I slowly dismantled over 6 months, and I felt, as I say, a bit lost, a bit embarrassed. But you caught me at a point where I actually bit of cold water and thought, why would I feel embarrassed? Because I live once. I want to live the life I want to live. And I was completely disconnected even with myself towards the end of those agencies. So I moved on. So you caught me at a point where my eyebrows were going back up again. I was a little bit, that's fine, because it seemed to me you were at an uncertain time. Mike, should I go this way or that way? And I think the theme was just do whatever it feels right for you, notwithstanding the responsibility to your partner and yourself, thinking both short term and long term. But the timing, coming back to your point, was important because I was at a point where I was comfortable with what I'd just done.
Yeah.
Whether people saw it as stupid or clever or weak or strong didn't really matter because it was the right decision.
So you went from One Best Way through to Violet Bic.
Yeah, they ran at the same time.
Okay.
There were 4 of them at the same time. There were basically 4 doorways to the same place. So I created 4 more narrowly focused brands as a contrast to a full service agency.
Yes.
And the reason was, from a strategic point of view, we were the first pure brand consultancy in the north of England. Northeast, certainly. I think there might have been one in Manchester at the time. But I wanted to be able to say that. So I built a separate team in a separate physical space called Violet Bic, which is a narrowly focused brand consultancy, only focusing on the positioning of brands and the integration of brands. And then the comms agency was over there to the side, the marketing thing. But yeah, back to your point, One Best Way ran for about 15 years. 10 years into that, we launched Violet Bic as a sister brand, if that's the right term, and took it from there.
And would it be right to say that perhaps, I don't know for what, I have my views on possible reasons, but I'll let you say, the way that you ran the Violet Bic sister brand, you, through your experience and learnings and the nature of that business, connected in a different way, which had real positive benefit.
The first thing we did with Violet Bic was had an opinion. I think that sounds weird, but One Best Way got to a 7-figure turnover, not as big as you are now, not with about a similar number of people as you actually, across the few of the companies that I had. But One Best Way was all right, but it was not a strong, forceful, meaningful brand. We were just a decent machine. We could do work well. Violet Bic had a real opinion, and the very precise. And by the way, all positions are opinion-based because you have to have an opposing opinion, or it's not a position at all. And the opinion of the company was, if you haven't got anything to say, don't market at all, basically. And that was really weird, The slogan was stop marketing and start branding. And the turnover was 0 at the time. This is Violet Bic, and I had a company with £1 million turnover here. There was a marketing company, and I launched a company that said stop marketing, start branding. And basically it was saying, look, until you've got something precise and ownable to say, don't say anything because you're wasting your money. You're trying to outshout other people. And that's a principle. And the great thing is people disagreed with us, largely marketing companies. But it didn't matter because it created a strength. And that's why, coming back to you, your opinion that if you're not connecting in the optimum way, everything in the communications part of the business is suboptimal. It seems to me that that's a belief you have, and it's an authentic belief because it links to your behaviours as well. And something I'll say is, in terms of financial growth, Violet Bic grew 10 times faster than One Best Way. So it took about 10 years for One Best Way to grow from 0 to a certain turnover. And it was a not dissimilar turnover in Violet Bic within 1 and a bit years. And it's large. It was down to the quality of the people within it, undeniably, but also the fact that we had a very precise opinion that polarized people and started meaningful conversations around what we were doing.
And over the last sort of 10 years, without knowing precise dates, there's been other businesses that you've either consulted with or run yourself. I think in that point of view, strong point of view approach, which I completely align with and understand, I found quite inspiring some of your point of views around some of those businesses. So I'll give an example around, you've got the holiday cottages business now. I don't think it's completely born out of that, but the sort of topsy-turvy world that we live in, the importance of slowing down and thinking when so much of our lives nowadays are fast-paced. And I've always found that those types of point of views really make certainly myself think. So I think that sort of thought-provoking approach that you've got has really helped the brand of those businesses. I think it's interesting, I suppose there's quite a few examples, but in the example of like the clothing business or the holiday cottages business, how you went about, was it a very natural process of formalising how you presented those businesses and how you yourself had a point of view for that business or a positioning or a...
The truth is, most brands of my own that I develop are not authentic at the beginning, and that sounds like a bad thing, but in an almost Tourette's-like way, I say out loud a thing, and then it takes me sometimes years to catch up with that thought. So with the clothing brand Always Wear Red, the notion at the beginning was that confidence is a colour and wearing red would give you a feeling. But going back to the point I made a few seconds ago, that brand evolved into something else, which felt more authentic to me, which was the fact that when you wear our stuff, because I ended up just in hand knits, working with him, Alex, the brand position had morphed into something quite different, and I just let it morph. There's a reason I'm saying this, by the way. It morphed into a position where it started to explore what you wore when you were doing nothing, as a celebration of doing nothing. And a slogan we ended up with was "Downtime is life," with the emphasis on the is. And that became a belief which kind of crept up on me and worked its way into the business. And basically the hand knits we were creating, on the back they had knitted into them things like the pause symbol and just the word no sometimes, so that, because I very rarely would switch off and just be off. I would feel guilty or ineffective or of no value because I wasn't doing anything. But in fact, of course, the downtime is life thing was trying to turn my own notion, because I have a daughter now who's 9, so back then Isabel was 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to live for about 1,000 months and then die, and what am I doing spending my life looking at stuff, spreadsheets, and sat in an office by myself when I could be with my daughter? So doing nothing with Isabel became very, very, well, the most important thing in my life, and you've got 3 young kids, of course. So it was this notion of trying to turn the thought of life upside down.
Yeah.
And that built its way into the business. That was a really wiggly way of saying, I know it's an overused term, authentic brands, but they're the best because it's just an extension of you, just an extension of me. And with the holiday cottages, the fact that somebody will give us some money, and not a small amount of money, to spend the most important times of their life in a bit of property owned by us, that's such a responsibility. And the brand position is evolving again to actually double down on what that means, so that from the second they arrive, well, before they arrive, they can be absolutely sure. Because I think sometimes when we book a holiday, for me, there's a gap between what they're telling me they're going to do and then what they actually do. So I want to close that gap so the surety is there. Again, this mini ramble it's taken me some time, because I suggested at the beginning that I'm sometimes inauthentic at the launch. I say something out loud and I'm not really delivering on that thing right away. I have to learn and see how it evolves, so I get totally immersed in the change I'm trying to make to drive the category, going back to what we were talking about. And I'm sorry I kind of rabbited on a little bit there, but I think when it's part of you, it's not really like going to work. It's a thing, you're just being yourself. I'm lucky though, because whilst I'm not a super rich person, we're kind of in that middle bit, so we're okay. So I can explore a little bit. I'm exploring writing at the minute, which isn't going to make any money, but it's part of what I do. But yeah, we'll see what happens there as well.
Listening to what you're saying, it just re-emphasises to me where we started really with the podcast, which, with reference to Bonded and going deep into that sort of purpose and belief to set the position for the company, and it's beyond just the market position. It's a true belief that then sets the tone for the decision making and the behaviours, and it's part of you. And listening to what you say, it completely aligns with those different businesses and how you've gone about evolving them. It's that purpose and belief and that authenticity that's not just made them effective from a business perspective, but really driven you to invest time in the business, but also deliver success for those businesses. So I think the takeaway really, I guess, for the listeners, in my view, is really connecting, taking the time to connect to what is that purpose and belief, and really integrating that within your strategy, or making that beating heart of the whole piece. Which I guess for you and I, having been through those processes, me being in the example of Bonded, it can be obvious to think that way, but I don't think necessarily it is for like the general. Back to the point of our market, principally it's not, because it's there's so many service providers out there that are working on a transactional level or doing business in a certain way, and I think through their own admission, the tens and tens of thousands of agencies that are in the UK, I hazard an informed guess that a good percentage of those probably didn't have a strategy and a belief and a purpose-driven approach to why they'd launched the business, which is in itself, I believe in the importance of businesses making money, but even more so done in the right way with authenticity. And so
perhaps the asterisk that's on it, and by it I mean do something heartfelt. I think in summary, perhaps what you've just said is do something heartfelt, purposeful, valuable, meaningful. If you get it wrong first time, that's okay, because I think that going before you're ready, which I suppose is an off-the-shelf remark, but I will make it, it's okay, because if you're prepared to go with it and change and evolve, because no business I've ever had, and some have made money, some have lost money, some have kind of been somewhere in the middle. None of them were right on day one. You know what I mean? They all had an idea of what they were for, as well as what they did. And those are two different things, of course. But they weren't right at the beginning. They had to become right.
I would say, from my own personal experience, it's mine, that going through those periods of disconnection really just makes it more of a natural process, because as I've matured and through the years of having a career, certain things become more important, and therefore it becomes a natural process. So often it's not something to force. I suppose it comes back to the authenticity. So we talked about 10 years ago, me going through a period of disconnection, yourself going through a separate period of disconnection for different reasons. I've spoken publicly about 7 years now, I think, where I had nearly died from pneumonia, to put it too bluntly. That's had a big effect on me in terms of my values and how I live my life now. It's amazing when you nearly die, like how it puts things into perspective. Not even consciously or anything, but just you worry less about certain things, and you value the importance of other things more. So I would say, in summary, the takeaway being that if you're a person that you struggle to find purpose and belief and a meaningful reason to do something, don't stress, because I think the pattern of life will bring that out.
I think it's already there. I mean, you mentioned the word confidence. Keep in mind that I got, for what it's worth, I got from zero to £1 million turnover by muddling my way through, working hard over 10 years. But then I got an opinion with a second brand that polarised people, but it woke me up, woke the market up, and we got to a not dissimilar turnover level within 1 year, because I had the confidence to express that opinion at the right time, a whole load of luck, a few of the right people around me as well, of course. But I just wanted to make the point, hammer down on what you've said. You can, it's about timing and confidence and connecting with the right people in the right way at the right time, and rolling the dice, just keep rolling the dice if you feel okay doing that. And I hope that people do, because life isn't that big, is it? We're only here for a little while, so kind of might as well.
And on that note, it's about time that we draw the podcast to a close. We should look to do another episode sometime, Mike. Is there any final thought that you'd like to? And we talked given quite a lot, particularly at the end there, around thoughts and opinions and advice. Is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners with, like a final thought?
I think the importance of connecting with the right people around you in your immediate vicinity is important. I'm not saying that from a position of that's where I am right now, because I'm not. With this new chapter that I'm going to go through in 2026, I'm trying to work it out. In my life, there are a handful of people, including you, who I trust and admire and like and connect properly with. I think that you probably need, I think I need 5 or 6 of them, and I probably haven't really, who I properly connect with to try and help me to think properly, because I get a bit macho, I can do this myself, and I'm not very good at that. It's kind of working out who those small number of people are around you who you could get teary with, or tell them that you really, really don't know what you're doing and still feel safe.
Yeah.
A bit more of that's good for everybody, I think, connecting in that way, feeling safe, and because we're all winging it to a degree, aren't we? Do you think?
One of the things I'll take away from that really valuable advice is the importance of that close network. If network's the right word, it's probably a bit of a.
No, you're right, but it's almost like there's a more concentrated version of it, where people are very forgiving, and I worry a little bit about. I look at a lot of the stuff that people like our friend Alex are doing, who's filming this to support particularly men who struggle with this, that and t'other. And I don't know what to say about the gap that I perceive between what people say and what people do, having time for people. Because I have to say, I think I've got a lot of time for people, but I don't know that I really, really do as much as I could. And that's me talking about me. I'm not talking about anybody apart from me. So if somebody really, really did need help, am I connecting with them properly? The thing I'll leave me and you with on this subject is, I said to someone recently, if you're asking someone how they are, ask twice. Because I think, how are you, Steve? I think, cool. But if I asked a second time, I think you might give a different answer sometimes. I mean, if you're fine, you're fine. But I do think that asking how somebody is twice, I've seen it and I've done it and people have done it to me, it can make a difference, because that second time suggests that you've seen something that questions the first response. And I think there's something in that on the subject of really connecting with somebody to find out how that person actually is, I think.